It's very honor for our audience to have a little introduction about who you are and the works that you are doing by yourself. Can you do that little introduction for us?
Well, let me start. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina. This is during World War II. I'm 88 years old right now, so I remember Pearl Harbor. And my dad served in the Navy. I wasn't in combat, but he served in the Navy. And when he got back after the war, I fell in love with the Navy and his generation of service. And so I decided to go to the Naval Academy. I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1957. And at the time, there was no Air Force Academy. And I fell in love with airplanes, and I could volunteer for the Air Force. And so I did that and went into the Air Force upon graduation in 1957, became a pilot. And within a couple of years, by 1959, I was headed to Germany in my first squadron. And that year, NASA was formed and the first group of astronauts were formed. When I was to back up a little bit, when I was in flight school, in October of 1957, Sputnik was launched. And to me, that was the beginning of the space age. And the space race began shortly after that. Well,
Hmm.
got to Germany in 59, and in 61, Yuri Gagarin was the first human being in space. Shortly thereafter, Alan Shepard became the first American. And then just shortly after that, President Kennedy announced the Apollo program that we were going to go to the moon and land on the moon by the end of 1969. Well, I thought it was crazy idea, but turned out 8 years and 2 months later, I'm sitting in mission control and on Apollo 11 and talking to Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin when they landed on the moon. So 8 years and 2 months later, we accomplished the goal. Well, in 1962, I rotated back to the States. The Air Force sent me to graduate school at MIT. And while I was there, I was working on the Apollo guidance and navigation system that MIT had the contract to build. And we were taking data to make sure the system was operational, and we did, and the system worked perfectly, and we proved that it was easy to operate in an operational setting. And so I got my degree, and I met some astronauts while I was there working on this system, and they were very excited, enthusiastic. I'd never met anybody that was so excited about their job. And I asked, how did I get that job? And they laughed and said, well, you need to get your degree and go to test pilot school, and you might have a chance. So I followed their advice, got accepted to test pilot school in 1965, no, 64, graduated in 65. Stayed on as an instructor at the test pilot school. And in September of 65, there was an article in the paper that said NASA's looking for more astronauts. And so I applied and was selected in April of 1966. So we moved to Houston, and I started my 10-year career as an astronaut in 1966. And then I was mostly, at first, I was working following the development of the Saturn rocket, which was an amazing machine. Still is, I think, biggest one ever launched, rocket ever launched. And so then I got support crew for Apollo 10, and I was mission control for that. There was mission control for Apollo 11, backup on Apollo 13. Flew to the moon on Apollo 16 and back up for Apollo 17. So I worked on more Apollo missions individually than anybody else in the astronaut office. Five I were associated with, and only flew once. So there were 9 missions to the moon, 6 landings. So that's 12 people. and three people went to the moon twice, but nobody landed but once. And so we had 24 that went to the moon of the 27 seats. So there were three people went twice. And so anyway, John Young and I, after a long delay in between Apollo 14 and Apollo 15 and 16, we landed in the Descartes Highlands. By this time we had a spacecraft that lasted for 3 days on the moon instead of 1 day, and we had a car called the lunar rover that we took with us, and which revolutionized lunar exploration. And we were the only mission that landed in I call it the mountains of the moon. As you look at the moon, there's the dark areas and the light areas. The light areas are the highlands, or the mountains. And so we landed almost on the equator, east of 00 latitude, longitude, and in the Descartes Highlands, it was called. And so if you imagine Apollo 11 at sea level, we landed at about 2,500 meters above that. So we were in I'd say they call it the mountains of the moon. Didn't look like mountains because we were up on the top of them, but it was very exciting and very dynamic and very stressful 3 days, if you will. You had so much to do, and you wanted to make sure you did it right. Hopefully things didn't break, and so fortunately the car worked well, and so we were able to drive a total of about 25, not quite 25 kilometers across the moon. And so we accomplished our goals, and 3 days later we left and started home.